Over the last few years, we've sent over 10 million cold emails across dozens of different niches. And after years of watching and carefully analyzing these emails, I noticed several different patterns that anyone can use to instantly start blowing up their calendar with sales calls. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through what those patterns are and what I do if I were starting from a brand new domain in a blank email list tomorrow. Or let's start with the thing that most people get completely backwards, which is your list. Look, when most people want better results from cold email, what they'll do is they'll try to fix the email itself first. They'll rewrite the subject line, they'll try a new opener, they'll swap out a call to action, and sometimes that may help a little bit, but most of the time it doesn't move the needle the way you expect it to do. And what happens is people become confused. Here is why. The email isn't doing most of the work. The list is. A mediocre email sent to a well-built list will outperform a great email sent to a bad list every single time this pans out, and it is not even close. So what does a well-built list actually look like? A well-built list is narrow, okay? It is specific. It's people who have the exact problem that your offer solves right now and who fit a tight enough profile that one email can speak to all of them at once. Think about it from the other side. If someone emails you and the first sentence already feels like it was written for your exact situation, you're probably gonna read the whole thing. But if it's so generic that it could have been sent to anyone, it's going to go immediately into your trash folder. That gap in reply rate between a relevant list and an irrelevant list is bigger than most people realize. The highest leverage move you can make this week isn't going to be rewriting your email. It's going to be narrowing your targeting criteria, and it's about making the email sound like it's not a cold email. Let's move on to section number 2, which is going to be deliverability. This is one of the things that trips people up the most because deliverability issues don't announce themselves, okay? You don't get a notification saying, hey, half of your emails went to spam. Here's what's actually going on underneath. Every email you send is building a reputation, not just for you, but for the domain that you're sending from. And if that domain starts getting flagged, that reputation is going to tank. And once it tanks, you are done. You can't send your way out of it. The stuff that quietly kills deliverability that most people are ignoring are things like sending from your main domain, not setting up your SPF, DKIM, and DMARC records correctly, warming up a fresh domain for 2 days instead of 2 weeks, blasting 200 emails a day from a single inbox. These things are death by 1,000 cuts. So what should you actually be doing? Well, we should have separate sending domains completely disconnected from your primary brand. We should have multiple inboxes per domain, and then we send around 30 to 40 emails per day per email that we have set up in those domains. And then we also need a warm-up period, and we're talking about 2 weeks minimum before you actually send one single cold email. The good news is you can audit most of this yourself in about 10 minutes. You can check your domain health inside of Instantly.ai. You can look at your bounce rate. You can see if your authentication records are actually set up right. If you are running on Instantly, this is all surfaced on a dashboard, and this is something that I highly recommend to fix first because this is your foundation. Once the foundation is fixed, then you can worry about the other things. Let's move on to section number 3. Personalization is overrated, but relevance is not. Here's what most senders mean when they say personalization. They think a manually researched first line that says, hey, I saw your post on LinkedIn about scaling your team. Hey, congrats on your funding round. Love what you guys are doing. Like that kind of thing. Maybe 5 years ago that could have made it or stood out, but today prospects have seen enough of those and they know exactly what's happening. So it's not buying you any trust like it used to, and it's definitely not personalized. What actually moves the needle is relevance. Relevance means that the email arrives to a person who has a specific problem that you solve, and the email is framed in the language that matches how they actually think about that problem. There's a big difference between, oh, I love what you're building, and agencies your size running outbound, you usually hit a wall around this point. Either the volume isn't there or the quality of leads drops off. One person reads the first line and immediately checks out. The other person reads the whole email because it sounds like you actually get what they're dealing with. The levers you control here are how tightly that you've segmented the list, which we talked about earlier. Okay, whether you've written different copy variants for different personas, and whether the language in the email actually matches the world that the prospect is living in, their industry, their role, their company size. You need to send the right email to the right person about the right problem. That is relevance, and at scale, relevance wins every single freaking time. Let's move on to section number 4, which is short and blunt beats long and polished. Look, I want to show you the email that most people are sending. My name is so-and-so, and I run a company called X, and we help businesses like yours do Y. Then there's a paragraph about how your company is so great and a couple value props stacked on top of each other and some social proof, and all of a sudden it is a long email, and then it ends with something like, we'd love to find some time to connect and show you exactly what we do. Here's the thing. The email looks like work to freaking read. The prospect will open open it, see a wall of text, and they're going to decide, this is not worth my time in about 2 seconds. And they're right, because there's nothing in those 5 paragraphs that actually needed all 5 paragraphs to say. The version that actually gets replies is 3 or 4 lines. One specific claim that's directly relevant to them. One easy yes or no question at the end. That is literally it. Short wins for a few reasons, my friends, okay? It respects the prospect times, and they feel that. It removes all the signals that make an email read like a sales pitch, and it forces you, the sender, to find the one most useful sentence that you actually have to say. The stuff you need to cut out every single time is the introduction of yourself, the explanation of your company, the list of services, the multiple part like call to action. Like, you need to cut all of this out. If they want to know who you are, they'll like click through and do their research. Your job isn't to explain everything, it's to get a reply. Let's move on to section number 5, which is the follow-up is where most of your replies actually live. Across all the campaigns that I've run and watched, the majority of positive replies don't come from the first email. They come from the second one and the third touch, okay? Most of your replies are living in the follow-up sequence, and most people aren't putting any real effort there. So what does like an average follow-up look like? Hey, just bumping this in the top of your inbox. Hey, wanted to resurface this in case you didn't like get it and it was buried. That's not a follow-up. That's like a reminder. A real follow-up is basically reinforcing the offer in your first email with a new angle for them to respond. And we want to limit this to 2 follow-ups. So for example, if your offer was, oh, we can build a landing page for you for free, what you would include to reinforce that in maybe a first follow-up would be a case study of somebody that you've been able to help get the result that's going to be relevant to the person that you're emailing, and then reinforcing the offer that you already basically gave them in the first email. That is how we get follow-ups that actually respond. Let's move on to section number 6, which is your offer is the ceiling, copy is just polish. Here's the trap that I see all the time from people. Results stall, and so they go optimize the email. A new subject line, a new opener, a new sequence structure, and nothing meaningful changes because the email isn't the problem. The thing the email is selling is the problem. A strong cold email offer has a few specific things. It names a concrete outcome, not a service. It implies a time frame, something that actually makes value feel real and near, not just vague. And it's easy to say yes to, meaning the first step is low friction and genuinely useful. Compare these 2 senders running the same type of agency right now, okay? One is emailing people with, I help businesses grow their revenue through paid ads. Want to hop on a call. The other one is emailing people, I'll build out 3 ads and copy to go with them that you could run this week at no cost. Want me to send them over? The second one is going to win all day because the second one is specific. It's low friction and it gives the prospect something real. Okay, that is the gap. The diagnostic question that I would ask myself is like, if a prospect said yes tomorrow, would the offer actually survive the first conversation? If your copy feels like it's working hard and the results still aren't there, that's usually the answer. The offer is the ceiling. Fix that first. So now you know the 6 patterns that will start increasing your reply rates and start booking you meetings. The only problem is that you still need a repeatable system that turns these patterns into an actual machine that gets clients booked on autopilot. So click on this video here on the screen to see how I booked 200 calls in 1 month. I will see you over there.